You like history, real history that you were never taught in schools. Why? The Vietnam War, nuclear bombs and nation building in Southeast Asia. By author Mike Swanson, with new documentation never seen before that'll open your eyes to events that led up to this. Why? The Vietnam War, nuclear bombs and nation building in Southeast Asia, 1945 through 1961. Get your copy today at Amazon.com. Why? The Vietnam War, by author Mike Swanson.
WallStreetWindow.com. Gold, silver, the stock market. WallStreetWindow.com.
Perhaps you're invested deeply.
Perhaps you're not in deep enough. Maybe you're thinking about getting started. WallStreetWindow.com. Michael Swanson, the brilliant author of The War State, understood these trends professionally for many years, and now he gives you the benefit of his knowledge. WallStreetWindow.com. Go there now. Go there now. Go there now.
You know what? I might mix those two.
The views expressed by callers, co-hosts, or anyone else who happens to get on the air at Ocelli.com do not necessarily reflect the views of Ocelli.com or Chuck Ocelli, and we are not responsible for any stupidity which might ensue. Thank you.
Nuclear holocaust. You know what uranium is, right? This thing called nuclear weapons and other things, like lots of, you know what uranium is, right? Bad things. Things are done with uranium, including some bad things. Nuclear holocaust. You know what uranium is, right? I've been briefed. Nuclear holocaust.
Revelation through conversation.
Ocelli.com radio network.
Ocelli.com.
Uncle, do you remember that time when Benjamin Fulford said that an Asian secret society was going to dispatch ninjas to take down the Illuminati?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, in the cartoon.
Yeah, did that ever work out too good?
No.
It didn't, did it?
Didn't work.
But here on Ocelli.com radio network, things work out a bit better, don't they?
Much better. I mean, it's clearer and understanding about the programs. The programs are much clearer. Getting live people into it. They really have a good conversation going.
Much better.
Much better scene.
I say forget Benjamin Fulford and his ninjas and listen to the Ocelli.com radio network.
I agree. It's straight to the point.
Straight talk.
And I like that idea.
Ocelli.com. The Ocelli.com radio network.
Like history, real history, that you were never taught in schools. Why? The Vietnam War, nuclear bombs and nation building in Southeast Asia. By author Mike Swanson, with new documentation never seen before. That'll open your eyes to events that led up to this. Why? The Vietnam War, nuclear bombs and nation building in Southeast Asia. 1945 through 1961. Get your copy today at Amazon.com. Why? The Vietnam War, by author Mike Swanson.
The Ochelli.com radio network.
Revelation through conversation.
Warning, 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 warning. This is a Emergency broadcast. Code Red, here we are. Pick up your iPads, your cell phones, and hand me and listen to Uncle the broadcast. Watch out. If you're sitting down for this, or if you're standing up, you better get ready for this, because it's gonna hit the eardrums. Uncle the broadcast.
You are listening to Uncle the Broadcast. My name is Aaron. I'm the nephew-in-law. Here with me is the star of the show, Uncle.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are at 3:24 tonight. And Alex was on the line.
Yeah, that's right.
And I have a guest on the line, and his name's Alex.
That's right.
How you doing?
Shoot the talk and take it over. You.
Take it away, guest.
Take it away.
All right, what do you want to know?
Uncle, our guest, this is interesting. Alex Ansary, he, like myself, he had a cable access TV show.
He's talking. I thought he's supposed to say that.
Well, okay.
You. I'm asking him.
Alex,
you're not the guest.
Yeah.
You're the sidekick.
I am.
Pay attention.
I forgot.
Yes. Hello?
Gosh.
You're on air. Hello?
Not me. It's
Not
you.
Me. It's you.
So you're aware, Alex. You are you and I'm me.
Hello?
Oh, okay.
Take over.
You want some background or
background.
I'm an escapee. I'm an escapee slave from Portlandia. Yeah, the city that's been taken over by the zombie apocalypse. So I've taken out my microchip and I am a free range humanoid who is not obeying the rules of the Matrix. So it's upset the Sentinels, and they've come after me here and there. So I got to protect myself. I'm kind of like Morpheus in the Matrix right now, basically narrating the fall of society. And let's narrate exactly what's wrong before everything collapses and get our message out in a time machine, in a time capsule to the future generations. We're on a mission from God. But yeah, I am an escaped slave, so I know a little bit about escaping an urban environment and being homeless and traveling around in an ARV and living off grid in the desert without sanitation and living with crazy people with guns without having a gun myself. Lots of fun experiences in the desert of Costia County, Colorado. That's an interesting place if someone wants to
desert man,
live on their own land illegally and go just put a tent out there and have the county come out and be like, okay, you got to leave. Because that's what they'll do now in Costia County. They'll run you off your land.
Unless you own it, no?
No, septic systems. They change the rules. They have people used to camp on their land, and this is in Costia County, Colorado, which is in the southern. And I understand that they worry about some people trashing it, and some people do pollute and disrespect the land. That is true. So, but the problem is, there's so many homeless now, and so that was a solution for me, was to go to Costia County in 2015. And it was right around the time they were kicking people off their land. And it seemed like I was meant to be there to film with my camcorder and then to put it on YouTube. And then it became mainstream news. And we were trying to get kind of a movement going. And it seems like, long story short, it seems like there were almost some agent provocateurs that came in that wanted to almost radicalize it towards a sovereign citizen thing, and then say one guy said that he was a judge of a continental Congress of the U.S. He really had no title, so he was misrepresenting himself as some sort of legal person or a judge. And so eventually that guy ended up going to Burns, Oregon, where the wildlife refuge takeover thing took place with Pete Santilli, that whole famous thing down there in Southern Oregon. So it seems like when you try to step against a local government, strange stuff can happen, and people can join your little group that are not who they say they are. So, yeah, people are right now they're going to be fleeing the cities probably if the economy gets even worse and there's a geopolitical crisis. But there's not a lot of places for them to go now. So, yeah.
Well, I want to say immediately, if anybody's listening, we're live on the Ocelli Radio Network as always, Sunday night, Uncle the Podcast. You can call in.
Friday night.
Friday, yeah, I'm sorry.
No Sundays.
Friday night.
Get it with its
live
sidekick.
on Friday nights. That's tonight. I get my nights confused. But anyway, you can call in 319-527-5016, or you can use Skype, contact Charles Ocelli, or call 319-527-5016. You can talk to Alex Ansary.
Yep.
Absolutely. And Alex, I didn't realize you and I might have stepped upon some of the same circles in there with Oregon. One of the guys that I knew, and I know my name got entered into evidence during those trials because I was in contact with some of those guys. Jason Patrick was from Georgia. And that's where I'm living now. I know you can tell from the accent, right? Really quickly, though, guys, we do have one caller already on the line. And, Uncle, did you want to hear about the international people listening first, or do you want to go to the caller? What are we doing here?
Let's listen. See who's on there first to see, and then I'll get the caller.
Okay, so just for the record, we got people in Germany. We got people in Canada. Let's see, Australia, a couple of listeners. Let's see, Thailand, which is new. I haven't seen that one on your show before. And let's see who else here. We got, there's UK, which is really in the middle of the night over there. Wait a minute. No, it's early morning. I'm sorry. It's early morning over there. Switzerland. And here's the weird one, Russian Federation. Okay.
They're what? Listening to me? Get those on the wrestling program. I want to talk to them guys. Get them.
The Russian wrestlers.
Russian wrestlers. I want to get to know those guys.
There we go.
Russian Federation might be because they heard Alex was going to be your guest. I don't know. It could be.
Maybe so. Okay, then let's have.
Interesting.
Alex, we'll have somebody on the line, and we'll see, and we'll get together. Okay, who is on the line? On the call. Yeah.
I know our caller is not in the Russian Federation.
I know that.
Somebody could call from the Russian Federation. It's possible. We do have international numbers, too, by the way, but I never give them all out because there's like 50 of them. Pretty much every country could call in if they wanted to, but we're also available on Skype. So, but you want me to go to the caller? He's a guy you're familiar with. I know who's waiting on the line.
Okay.
I bet you can guess.
Uncle, can you guess who our caller is?
Jimmy.
It is?
Right, Jimmy? All right, come on there, Jimmy.
Caller, you're there.
Yeah, it is.
There you go.
I can tell you by now. We got a guess here, Jimmy. Tonight.
I heard Alex.
Yeah, Alex.
Yes. Hello.
Yeah, do you have a question for Alex?
You guys
I've heard Alex before, Jimmy, I wonder. Have you run across him before? Because I know you're a consumer of many independent media sources. So have you heard of Alex before?
Yeah.
I have not.
Oh. Well, then this is a chance for you.
Well, you can ask him questions if you would want to. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's a question so much, but I could see your reasoning for wanting to flee cities.
Yeah.
But going to the desert is living in a van. There is a middle ground. You could try rural life.
Well, I personally haven't lived in the desert since 2013, but that's not really a present story. But I think that going out in the desert can be kind of an interesting experience temporarily, but I don't think it'd be fun full time. Those are some pretty intense places to be. Middle ground, yeah. There's different places. Central Oregon's nice. I've been in Archuleta County where there's trees in the mountains. That's not so much desert where there's water. I haven't been to Arizona yet, to Sedona. Maybe later. That would be fun. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting places I haven't been to yet. The problem is, in my travels, the problem is sometimes somebody always wants to be the alpha and the cult leader in reality when it comes to whether it be an in-person off-grid or the Facebook admins in various rural communities. So unfortunately, because of the politics of today's day and age, And some people have served this country, and that's great. But some people, they let it go to their head, and they like to have a lot of underlings underneath them, kind of like they're still in the service, like on Facebook. So I've seen this with a lot of people out there, and it becomes really difficult to want to get to know them, even though you're off grid. So I have a phrase: sometimes you can take the person out of Babylon, but not necessarily Babylon out of the person. So, yeah, I think our modern day technology has really screwed us up in ways in which even off-gridders don't even know which way's up and down, what's real news, what's fake news. And a lot of them have been sent on wild goose chases in the alternative media. So when I lived off-grid, it was miserable because everybody, in my opinion, where I lived was straight up under mind control from Facebook. That was my off-grid experience. And so I'm not off-grid now. I will be in the future. But for those that don't know, it's super expensive to live off-grid in Colorado since COVID. The land has doubled. And some people are actually being priced back into the city because their land tripled. And so it's going to be even more difficult for some of us in the next 10 years, to get out of the cities. So if somebody asked me if it's great to leave the country. Yeah, if you can afford it. Good for you. It's those of us that are stuck here that can't afford to leave or for whatever reason. And I've always thought they were building the fence to keep us in. And I think Ron Paul said that a long time ago, too. So, and the Civil War movie is about to be released around April 2023. Not to bring this back into too much politics, but it seems like they've got everybody super focused on the Civil War thing before the election. And that definitely foreign governments want that for sure. China and Russia would love to see lots of unrest.
See, and Jimmy, the neat thing to note here with Alex is that his media experience is extremely diverse. If you noticed, he mentioned Jack Blood earlier, and he's talking about, not the incarnation where I was producing him here on this network, but the earlier incarnations of Alex Jones where he was with Alex Jones and stuff. Alex was familiar with the alt media of a completely different era from what we're dealing with now. I mean, I'm not saying you're not familiar with what's going on now. What I am saying is that he had a completely different immersive experience as a media person earlier on, I would say, fairly, and therefore is one of these guys who has an educated view from a direct experience point of view. He's not one of these guys who came along and figured out it would be great to be on Rumble and started a channel on Rumble recently. You know what I mean? So, and much like you were talking about, and Aaron too has a long history, also being on the, what do you call that again? The access TV, the public access and stuff like that, which I think, Alex, you mentioned in the last hour, you'd just gone back to doing, right?
Yeah, actually. So it was a couple years that I took off. And so I was doing access for 10 years, and then I did a few different alternative media websites from Oracle and a few others. And then, unfortunately, I didn't save those archives, but I did save most of the cable access shows and interviewed in that time maybe 200 people. Jones was nice enough in those days to talk to me, Ike, Clyde Lewis, a long list of others. And then, long story short, around 2013-14, I became homeless, became to be very discontent with the direction of the mainstream media, began to talk out about what I didn't like about Jones, why he was my hero initially, and why I chose to tune out from that. And then at that point, kind of began to be less influenced by other men and thinking more for myself, although I always did, but I saw them more as my inspiration. So then I became in my own journey of just getting deeper in, like I said, the solar cycle stuff, and what I'm writing about, and the geopolitics, and the paranormal, and just stuff that's my own, and maybe sharing a little bit more about my story than other truthers will. Stories about child abuse, stories about heroin addiction before OTB TV, stories about going to jail, stories about like making mistakes in life before I even touched the mic, how that was a part of my healing journey. So it's different than a lot of people, and I've tried to get my family support and people in Portland support, and really it's just been difficult, and I feel like other people, they deal with a little less shadow banning when they go along with certain narratives.
Exactly.
So that's why I stopped creating content for 3 years, but I felt spiritually called back, not for money, but because by being silent, I did not feel well. I feel like it's good to take a break from it, but it's difficult to really quit this stuff once you're committed. Yeah.
Right. See, and this is the way, Jimmy, where like Alex is, and Alex might not even know this, but I view him very much as somebody who's akin to me in this way, where, you know, I start telling the personal stories in a way that a lot of other indie media people would never do. You know, and you're, Alex, are you familiar with Christy Aphrodite?
We did talk a few times. I was on her show a few times. I've think her stuff's interesting, especially about the coconut oil pulling, and that she's been on her own journey. So every now and then I'll check out a video. But we haven't been in touch, I think, for about 10 years. And a lot of people and we've drifted apart. I talked to Jack a long time ago. I met him briefly when I visited Austin in 2005, when I met Alex briefly. But just have drifted apart, but I did check out Jack Blood when he came back on his YouTube channel. Christy, but yeah, what did you want to say about her?
Oh no, it's just that these are people that I've worked with too. So I mean, I'm just saying, and they're kind of unique in that. I mean, Jack, again, you know, Jack has been on a different journey, and when he came back on with the YouTube channel, he was also doing the radio show here. You know, briefly, we did the 360 show for about a year actually. Where he was on, you know, once, twice a week, this kind of thing. But he decided he liked the YouTube thing better, and then he went back to doing his thing on the ground, you know, in his local area as a musician, as the thing that, you know, was his passion for the majority of his life. And Christy is on a different journey now. She has this whole, you know, the what she calls it, the Natural Church of the Ozarks and all that, where she's, you know, got a place where she's growing her own stuff and, you know, doing the healing journey that way. But you reminded me of her when you brought up homelessness. And as far as I know, you, me, and Christy are the only people who have really discussed homelessness. I mean, at one point, she was doing a show called Homeless Radio on American Freedom Radio, where she was still living out of her van, and she was trying to get back into, you know, again, spread good messages, spread good words, positive things. And she's been on an interesting journey, too. And it reminded me of those two people when you were talking, and you brought up Jack in the first hour. So anyway, with that, I'll shut up, Jimmy. I just wanted to give you another side of it, you know, another portion of Alex's story for you to maybe ask a question or make a comment about. So hopefully I've helped you out there, Jimmy, and I'll check the lines. Anybody else who wants to call in, 319-527-5016. And with that, the producer shuts up.
There we have it, Uncle. What do you think?
Yeah, I didn't know.
Jimmy, talking about Jimmy.
So you're kind of. Well,
yeah, go ahead, Jimmy.
Go ahead, Jimmy. Go ahead, Jimmy. I'm listening.
Well, I didn't know that he was kind of an early pioneer on podcasting and radio, alt radio.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And didn't know that you were involved with Alex Jones. Here's just a thought of mine. I don't know if you've been keeping up with Alex Jones and Professor Fetzer's legal woes, but would you agree with me that the big difference is, I've looked into these two cases just for funsies, and I know Alex Jones, he admitted in his divorce hearings that he's a quote-unquote entertainer and may or may not believe what he says.
Performance artist.
So that's why that's why he could be found liable. Of course, the $1 billion, of course, that's ridiculous, a bit excessive and cruel and unusual and bizarre. But the difference between Fetzer is, no, he's covered by the First Amendment. Why? Because he believes it. If you want to go after Fetzer, you're at the disadvantage of having to prove that he's sane and doesn't believe what he says. I think he absolutely does believe it. What do you think? Anyone?
Well, it's an interesting topic. I am new to this topic. I know who Fetzer is. I met him briefly at the Mark Passio conference, so this is new to me. I'm assuming it has to do with Sandy Hook, because he also had theories about that. I don't agree with everything Fetzer has to say, but he's in his own universe. But yeah, I'm not familiar with this, and I'm looking it up right now. Now, I don't follow Alex anymore for personal reasons but I am interested in kind of hearing the cliff notes of what Alex is saying, I guess. And if it's really unpopular, I guess, to be critical of Alex, I guess, in certain areas, depending on what your criticism is. Feel free to tell me more about this legal case if you guys would like to, because I'm just now looking it up. Yeah.
Chuck would probably do a better job on the overall deal, but go ahead, Chuck. Basically, for my memory, that kid by the name of Hogg was going all over the news networks talking about gun grabbing, taking guns away, and he was involved. He's a so-called survivor from Sandy Hook.
Yeah, I know him. Yeah. I don't know him, but right. Yes, I know of him.
Right. So that automatically he's a public figure. Okay. So there's a lot of problems there. Basically, I think Fetzer you can't hold. He could say anything he wants. Period. And especially if he truly believes it.
Yeah. See, the court case has nothing to do with that kid Hogg. It's got to do with Posner, who is the plaintiff in the civil suit, where basically he was accusing Posner of committing crimes, and therefore there's the liability, and there were other elements to it. But anyway, this case was adjudicated already. And Fetzer's up for, I think it's $1,400,000, something like this, as far as the settlement goes. But it was about Posner, and Fetzer did himself no favors by not following the court's directions and trying to enter things into evidence, sharing evidence that was supposed to be privileged and only shared with the attorneys, and so on and so forth. So he also got himself a contempt charge against him during the court proceeding. So, there was a lot of things. I actually had a reporter present at the trial for a couple of days.
I would just say this.
I just had one more. What was it Chuck said? Then if the Hogg kid was involved in his thing, then he must have been the one involved in the Alex Jones thing. There's a gaggle of them. They were suing the two of them.
The David Hogg kid is from the shooting in Florida, and then he went around doing, the anti-gun violence, anti-school shooting campaign, and became kind of a media sweetheart for a bit. And they were battling back and forth, Alex Jones and this David Hogg, and a lot of other alt media people sort of went after Hogg and claimed that he was a crisis actor and all that kind of stuff. But as far as I know, that's not what the court case is about. The court case is about damages done to these different parents, okay? And there's where it comes from. And again, Fetzer, in the course of his trial, didn't answer his charges properly at all. So, what are you going to do except that he tried to bring in an attorney that wasn't accepted by the court, even though he was a practicing attorney in another state. You have to be able to enter him in there as somebody who's acceptable. I mean, these are typical problems. Regardless of direction,
it's almost always a given that an attorney's going to be allowed ad hoc to practice. Look, I mean, Fetzer,
no, not at all.
I don't like him or his beliefs, but he's being targeted for his weird beliefs.
Well, that's what some people claim. But what I'm telling you is that why he was found liable is because he did no proper. When you go into a court, you have to behave according to what the judge declares you have to do. I mean, that's just universal. And just because somebody has a license to practice law in another state doesn't mean they're acceptable as an attorney in, whatever state you're in. You have to get them to be accepted. You know what I mean? And you notice this during pre-trials of all sorts of stuff. Even these guys that go from state to state, some of these, glorified, super glorified ambulance chasers like that guy Crump, who shows up at every racial shooting, right? He can't go into court and do anything if they don't accept him as a legitimate attorney in that jurisdiction. Fetzer, that was the first problem. The second problem is he brought in stuff that, he claimed was evidence, and they rejected it. You have to go through a process to enter something properly into evidence. This is the way our courts work in this country. You can't just bring in anything and dump it in front of them, like you talked about with the Warren Commission thing being brought in, where they said, look, the Warren Commission volumes, which they brought in a wheelbarrow to say, hey, here's our evidence. They kind of went, yeah, that's hearsay, not acceptable. It's from the bench that stuff happened. And like I said, he ended up with a contempt charge because he wanted video of the individual that he was being sued by, and he wanted to claim that wasn't even the person. So he took it to an identity, somebody was going to be his video expert, even though he was instructed specifically that only himself and his attorney were permitted access to this piece of video. And he didn't follow court directions, and that's how he ended up with the contempt charge on him. Like I said, everything that and that's the only thing you'd have to follow the whole trial to see what happened here. It was like every court direction he was given, representing himself most of the time, he didn't follow any of the directions, and therefore was not able to do anything in court and just complained about it. That's all he did the whole time. Alex Jones had a team of attorneys, different circumstance entirely. But Fetzer didn't even, in my estimation, make an effort to adequately defend himself. So
well, he didn't have an attorney. He didn't have an attorney, and he's trying to provide Xeroxes off the internet as evidence. Of course, he didn't know what he's doing. Right there, it should be tossed out.
Yeah, but that doesn't because you're not able to get an attorney. That doesn't dismiss a lawsuit. I mean, or because you go in and you bring things that, they gave him opportunities like, look, go home and figure out something here. That's why it took 5 days, and he would show back up and say, nope, you need to accept this stuff, even though he's told by a judge no. It's like if you tried to bring in, if you claimed that I injured you and you brought photographs in and they said, look, you got to prove that these photographs were made at around this time, and what you brought us is a copy of a photograph where we don't have a proper date on it. Go back and bring proper evidence back in, and you show up the next day and drop the same photographs, in front of the judge.
You ain't gonna say it.
What's he supposed to do?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it's like, that's a different story. The guy never offered an adequate defense at all, even though he was instructed as to how to do so, and allegedly had the advice from different attorneys. But those attorneys were not permitted to go in court and represent him directly because they weren't recognized as having the ability to practice law and be an attorney in that jurisdiction. So, it was a whole mess like that. So Fetzer's trial, and again, part of the judgment against him is literally contempt for not following the judge's directions. You're not supposed to show this to other people, and he did. He shared it with other people, even though he was specifically admonished not to do so.
Yeah.
So
they take that serious.
That's for if you're being in a jury.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I know what he's going. I know what he's talking about.
You know about
now
this, right?
Now I know we're getting somewhere. Is when you talk to it and you being a juror, you cannot say a word.
No.
From that experience. Mm-hmm. This is what Chuck is talking about.
That's right.
I know it is.
There's a lot of rules in court, and if you don't follow them, you're going to pay the price for that. Yeah.
Right,
Be you a juror or the one, if you're the defendant in Fetzer's case, so you're in
that'd be the opposite way, though. Wouldn't it be the same in a way if you were a juror?
Well, but you're supposed to, and that's the thing, though, is that, the prosecution could try to bring things in, too, and you can object to it and say, hey, look, that's not legitimate evidence, and if you've got a good argument, supposedly the judges are supposed to deny entry, and, that way, too. Oh. But the thing is that this guy never made even a proper effort, in my opinion. I mean, if you're intelligent and you realize this is the way the court is, this is the way the situation is, you got to at least make a proper attempt. It's the old adage of bringing a knife to a gunfight. Hey, let me walk up to you with this knife. No, this is a gunfight. Boom, you're done. I mean, that's pretty much what happened here. So, regardless of his First Amendment position or anything else, this was about injury to this guy Posner, who, again, is the father of one of the Sandy Hook victims. So, therefore, this is what the lawsuit was about. It had nothing to do with Hogg. Hogg is a whole, media circus thing where it's like that kid's out there trying to, get people to have their guns taken away. And of course, that's the overall contention of Fetzer, is that's what Sandy Hook was all about, was just having people disarmed. And it was a political thing, and that's all it was. And it was all fake, and et cetera, et cetera. Which again, I have a different view on it than that. And I have a different view on it than probably Alex does and everybody else. But it just is what it is. It's not about his view here, though. It was about injury to Posner in that case. Leonard Posner, this guy's name.
Man, all this, it almost makes you want to go to court. What do you say, Alex? It sounds like a lot of fun, huh?
Yeah.
Maybe being a defendant in court, isn't that just like a great idea? You like that idea? You there, Alex?
Who, me or Alex?
I'm asking Alex.
Come on, Alex.
Oh, we may have lost him here.
What happened to him?
I'm not sure.
I'm sorry, Alex, are you still there with us, man? Are you talking to your mute button, or let me see here? Did we lose him?
Maybe.
We may have lost Alex. Okay, I'm sorry.
Did we lose a connection or something?
What happened here?
No, double checking here.
Okay, yeah.
There you
what
go.
I was going to say was I had the mute button.
Okay, it's cool.
I have to get more information on the story. Like I'm just Googling as you guys are talking. I still don't even understand what the lawsuit's about. So I see Leonard for Posner. I have the document brought up. This is something which, if I knew we were going to talk about it ahead of time, I would have watched some videos. But so I did not know that you wanted my opinion on that, but I have to look at it. I have plenty of opinions on the truth movement. Various people that I feel have burned me, people that have viral YouTube channels that I think put out disinformation about the sun dying, when in fact the solar cycle is in fact very active. It's like the real world that I know, that I'm writing about, that I want the future to know about in 50 years, is that fake stuff went viral in our day and age, and truthful stuff got buried. All different types of truthful stuff, and we all have our own stories. So, yeah.
Uncle, you can relate to this, can't you? The truth being buried?
Yeah, what he's talking about.
Right?
What the guest is talking about.
I know.
I can understand his point of view on that.
Yeah, he's
what Jimmy was talking, completely out of proportion. He was going in a different direction.
Fun in court is what that's called. Uncle. Fun in court. I mean, who doesn't just love it? Oh man, great time. But yeah, Alex has been at this a long time, Uncle. He's been making media a long time, lots of years.
So how long were you on broadcasting? Alex?
Well, I did some broadcasts for Oracle and American Freedom Radio and Republic Broadcasting, and I interviewed Joel Skousen about 2025 and uploaded a video to disclose.tv, and they took it down. I don't know why. And then one of the co-founders of Oracle went on to co-found a naughty website that got into a lot of extremism. So I don't know if he had a bias against me for deleting my content. But it's not just YouTube or Google that censors. Sometimes people get mad at other people and they just delete all their stuff with just one click, and that's it. So lesson to be learned: back up your stuff. Have a good hard drive, not one of the cheap ones. I've gone through a lot of hard drives in the off-grid years. Like when you're off-grid, and you're homeless, lots of broken computers, hard drives. All my possessions that I had in Portland, not that I'm telling you a sob story, I'm just, everything gone. When I left Portland, someone was supposed to store my stuff when I went on my off-grid journey, and that's probably all gone. So I had stuff and started over with a backpack multiple times in in a 10-year period. So, after the COVID thing, definitely, I have my own story about leaving the internet and believe in conspiracies, and during the COVID, watching the mainstream media for a while and not wanting to, feeling disenfranchised for 15 years, and then feeling like I had to leave my off-grid property. So then I came back recently. And so, like, I believe in just thinking for myself, being a contrarian, but I don't listen to the other people anymore. I have different views on Russia, and I just see a lot of people, AMTV, Clyde Lewis, singing to the same tune. And Coast to Coast isn't great. They have a lot of people on that I don't agree with, but they're going to let me on next month to talk about the solar flares and the war cycles for the second time. So I'm going to be getting prepared for that, because it's really rare for someone like me to get on a show to talk about anything. I try to talk to Clyde and others, and there's a lot of people that do gatekeep when they like to control exactly what the narrative is, like too much. In alternative media, there's way too much control freak behavior in alternative media with what we talk about.
Who's going to interview on Coast to Coast, by the way? Did they tell you?
Oh, Nori.
Nori, cool. I was on with Sarah in November, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
I will check that out. I haven't listened to it. I don't know you that well. I've just heard positive things. I just heard Jack Bled said he was on your network, and other people have. So I would check that out. Yeah, I don't know who Sarah is. Yeah.
Richard Serrett. He does a podcast called Strange Planet, which actually Aaron was a guest on not too long ago too, right?
Yeah,
Aaron.
Yeah, that's right. That's a guess.
And he's also one of the hosts, that rotates for Coast to Coast. I put Jimmy on hold, by the way, Uncle. So I don't know if anybody else wants to call in, but I mean, we got another maybe 10 plus minutes left of this hour, and that'll be that. So, if you guys want to get in, it's time. 319-527-5016. And Clyde, it's great. Did you have Clyde on when you were on American Freedom Radio?
Well, we knew each other in person, not super great, but I was in Portland, he was in Portland, and he was on some of my earlier shows, and then we had some differences of opinion around the 2010 period and drifted apart. And then I left Portland around 2011, then came back, was homeless for a year in my car, and then left again in 2015. Around that time, he ended up on commercial radio after 2008 or 9. So we did maybe like 5 to 10 shows together.
That's cool. Yeah, I've had him on as an interview a couple of times on my show as well, and I was actually his JFK guest this year on the anniversary. So but because I'm a JFK researcher, I don't know if you're familiar with any of my stuff. We might have been on AFR at the same time, actually, you and I.
I think so. I didn't listen. I wish the archives were still up. Yeah, because I missed some of the Oracle ones. But yeah, there was a lot of shows American Freedom Radio had. I remember I looked it up recently, trying to see if the archives were up or what happened with Danny, because I know he dealt with a lot of challenges and relocated up to Washington State. So yeah, I've tried to follow up, but I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was a great time, and Oracle, boy, there's a name I haven't heard in quite a while. I wonder where Bob Tuscan is today. So,
anytime you want to be on mine, Alex, you're welcome. And on my you gotta get into my revolution when that comes up.
Yes, Uncle's New Year's Revolution.
You'll get a good kick out of it.
Good time.
Yeah, we do a 4-hour live show on we do a 4-hour live show every New Year, Alex. So, we invite tons of people to call in that night, and I mean, we'd be more than happy if you join us New Year's Eve. Yeah. If the world doesn't fall apart by then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I suspect we'll still be around. Okay, I'll put that on my calendar. Thank you.
I suspect, but you never can tell. Look, I'm open-minded about the whole thing, right? I don't make those decisions. I just work here.
I know.
It's crazy. Uncle.
Producer boy is my producer there doing the work.
One of the interesting things Clyde did a long time ago was Mad as Hell TV, which was another Access show, and her name was Courtney. I forget her last name, and so Clyde would come in. It was 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I think Anthony Hilder did a show there, and with Daniel Hopsticker. I don't know him real well, but he's a really well-known researcher. So yeah.
I remember Hop. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, Hilder was there too. That's crazy.
Oh, and also I got a Saturday show party. Also, if you're interested. on Saturdays.
Yeah, we should be doing that tomorrow, watching VHS tapes.
VHS tapes we do.
VHS tapes.
They do a VHS watch party thing, and they also sometimes video games too, but they haven't done the video games lately.
Been a while.
Been a while.
So I don't want me to let Jimmy James back on or whatever. Well, it's your show, your call, but whatever you want to do.
I feel like Alex has got a lot to say here. So
He does got a lot to say.
If anybody else wants to call, they're more than welcome. 319-527-5016. We're talking to Alex Ansary of Outside the Box TV, a true veteran in the alternative media world.
I'm going to put the link to to Alex's YouTube channel in the live chat room at Ocelli.com. So if you go over there, you can even go in as an anon if you're not familiar, guys. If you're listening on your phone or whatever, there it is at Ocelli.com. And we have a Chatango over there. And Alex would be familiar with the Chatango. I've been using that thing for, I don't know, the better part of a decade at least.
Yeah, that's been around for a while. I used it last in 2010, I think.
There you go. So I think I started using it back then. But anyway, either way, I've only been around about 10 years, and Alex has been around longer, just for the listeners' edification.
So he's over top.
Over the top, Uncle.
Producer. He's over top of producer, Alan.
That's
Alex. Now we know.
That's not easy. Not easy to do, but hey, he's done it.
It's been actually many years since I've been on a conference call. I mean, I know in Oracle during those days, I think I talked with Doug Owen, off and on. Maybe it was 2009 or 10, but it's been quite a while. Yeah, there's a lot of, I've tried to reach out to certain people that I talked to a long time ago, and like David Icke and whatnot, and a lot of them, I guess you guys already know this, are that are around the Alex Jones. It's like kind of like a clique. Unfortunately, at this point, things have changed in the last decade. So it's a little harder to get some of those guests, but I am really grateful that I did start out young before YouTube with trying to get guests. And then I had the honor of being able to interview these people before they got in such high demand. So I'm really lucky that I had the chance that David Icke talked to me a long time ago. And he got up at 3 o'clock in the morning, his time in England. And here I was barely with volunteers trying to figure out how to work the audio. Audio quality is not up to par with what it should have been for a David Icke interview in my first few months. And so I just consider myself to be like, I faced a lot of hardship, but was lucky enough to get some decent interviews and meet certain people. With Anthony Hilder, I met him in person, and we went through a checkpoint in Portland, Oregon with the legal tags while they were doing a checkpoint for tags. And then it's like almost as if we had a shield of protection around us, and we got out to film this checkpoint in Portland, Oregon. Anyway, yeah, Anthony Hilder is an interesting character. And I do foresee myself writing a book one day about just some of my stories behind the scenes, not to expose anyone, just talk about the real behind the scenes reality of being a young person trying to create alternative media content in a world that's very behind the scenes cutthroat and competitive.
Yeah, that's actually what I was going to ask you about as my final.
Because with conspiracy theorists, you really don't have friends. You have a lot of backstabbers that go crazy with conspiracy theories, start developing psychosis that you're one of them. And in fact, there can be an essay I can write, why the truth movement destroyed my life, if you want to go there. So the sad thing is it attracts really messed up people that have theories about everything and they don't know how to be a friend. So actually, if someone want to make friends, conspiracy genre is not what I would recommend. But I'm speaking from my lived experience. Someone else, their experience might be different.
Yeah, I would suggest as a book title, Alex, The Fine Line Between Crazy and Conspiracy Theory. Because, the fine line between intelligence and crazy, right, is what we've heard our whole lives. But really, honestly, it's the funniest thing in the world. I mean, going from the targeted individuals who legitimately feel as though they're targeted, whether it's true or not, and then actually living in a circumstance where you find, strangely, there are people really watching you. Like the story that I've told on air about the Homeland Security being triggered on me, when I was allegedly the victim in a situation, things can get very weird. And that was before I had a radio show, by the way. I was just a JFK researcher, and they got weird on me, So anyway, it's quite the journey. I was curious though what your thoughts were about, how much of this do you think is just symptomatic of the stuff that people immerse themselves in? Like, how much of it is organic, and how much of it do you think is orchestrated when it comes to the strangeness and the world of people that, again, like you said, you're not going to find a lot of friends. You can find some. You used to find a brotherhood, but I think those days are gone. And you can find lots of people that'll try and get close to you, but their motivations have a wide range.
This is going to be safe.
Right?
Like, it's good to get donations, but some people will donate to try to manipulate one's energy or what they say. Like, right. I do believe in psychic powers and telepathy, so even if some people don't. So we're all connected, even if we don't know that we're connected. And so, by being online and putting your energy online and people focusing on you, and if you don't shield yourself, you can come under entity attack from people's thoughts and what's attached to them, in my understanding. So David Icke has his version of the reptilians, and that's fine. My overlay intersects with that, but it's kind of my own take. And so I think that some people talk about the idea of controlled opposition. My perception of it, some people are overshadowed by a spiritual overtaking, and there's almost like a dark agenda to control, to dominate a topic, to push someone out, and a theory that they're just doing it for money, as some people might have in some cases. I don't believe at the deeper levels that some people are just about the money, that there's more or less an evil. So there's really, I think, even a hidden war within the truth movement. And when it comes to solar flares, even if that's somewhat new to some of you, it goes in a different area. Some people say we're going to be ascending with the solar flares, which I don't believe in, and that's really popular David Wilcock content. And then others talk about how we're all going to die from a massive solar flare. Tucker Carlson just did a story on that. Then others, they talk about the GSM and the Grand Solar Minimum. And what I'm talking about is the unrest and other things that are based in science. What I'm saying is, it seems like even with the solar flares, like with the other stuff, there's a war on truth. Right. Even with the algorithm, and we talk about racism, we shouldn't. There is an anti-white sentiment. I don't deny that. What I perceive is a racist sentiment that's promoted by algorithms, by technology, that's leading people artificially towards certain sentiments. And so when I talk about that, people don't act like they understand that. Conspiracy theorists seem really led in some cases by algorithms, by fake news, when they should be a little bit more conspiratorial about what's being shown to them on Facebook. So I'm pretty pessimistic about society now, and the big tech websites, and the direction for sure. I don't see a real truth movement. We might be able to rebuild pockets of it, like micro cells, but on the larger scale, even the psychic rooms, psychic groups on Facebook, seems like it's full of a bunch of fake psychics that have no intuition about anything going on in those arenas. And I do believe in the ability to have abilities, that potential, but I don't believe that a lot of the people that we see that are popular, that have the most views, things like that, are the most honorable. So it just seems like, I don't want to sound super nihilistic, but it's through this that I have a faith in God, that we're meant to just be sharing this truth, and that we need to be preparing for, I advocate, I'm not trying to steal the mic here, but I advocate people trying to write books and hand zines out in the street to try to just start truthing in the street outside of technology. I'm very suspicious of this QR code thing. Everybody with a cell phone sending everybody to a QR code. That's one way to truth, and I might do that at some point, but I want to almost return to an old school way of reaching people. I've made attempts in my own community to talk about certain things or form of meetups, and for years it's failed. So for right now, the only people that I can reach are going to be on the internet. And that's this, I think, situational like you are in too.
So I just want to get this straight. You feel like we're in a stage here where it is not necessarily about the physical struggle now, but it's actually on a spiritual level, where we're really contending with many a dark force. Marianne Williamson wasn't entirely wrong, right, when she was saying what she was saying about the great dark force that is exerting itself. And we are equally affected, as is the rest of the planet. And of course, that nearly doubles our struggle for those of us seeking to reach outside of the conventions. Would you say that's true?
Exactly. So me having sensitivity when I was doing online radio in 2008, 9, and 10, I believe I faced a lot of interference, a lot of really negative energy from the chat room vibes, and then just also the negativity that I noticed in some of the talk show hosts that I'm not going to mention, and some of the cruel things they were saying. It was like, are they being targeted? Is there some sort of a beam weapon that's being pointed at all of us as hosts to try to drive us into insanity and turn on each other? So these are actual thoughts I had the whole time. If there was some sort of interference, energetically, and then what that is, we could speculate. But I think that people that want to make everything about the TI gang stalking government program are really overlooking what these unseen forces could be doing. A lot of them, they really want to argue and make it, oh, it's physical, it's the government. And if they want to believe that, that's fine. I think there's something beyond that. Of course, it's beyond the physical. And I think that I've told them in videos that go back at least 10 years, I've made this position. I think the entities are trying to manipulate people into thinking that it's just physical, that it's their neighbor, that it's that guy down the street. Because if they can cause someone to act like they have psychosis, then they can, and that person could be seen as crazy. So the mental health field right now is not prepared to deal with, for example, what's going on right now with society.
Right.
And the paranormal, and there's lots of signs of that's one of the reasons I stopped uploading for 3 years, is I saw a lot of signs of possession online. Now we're still there now, but it's less. It's a little less than 2019 before COVID. A lot of people agree were weird times.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just wanted to ask one last question. So you think that there is indeed an element of the profiteering types out there that does exist in the controlled opposition, but you think that that's not the prevalent thing that's motivating this, which is stifling and atomizing, in truth, regarding all these things. I mean, the 9/11 truth movement has been atomized, in my opinion, completely destroyed. And
they both obviously exist. Yes. Yeah, they both obviously exist. And obviously there's many ways. I've had dealings with some people. I opened up a survival store briefly in Portland for a few folks that were Ramtha followers. And they really had an agenda to terrify their customers through a newsletter that they sent out to say the world was ending in 2012. And they were trying to recruit me into there because I wouldn't budge. I kind of got forced out of that situation. So I've had experiences, but that there was also still an element of evil with one of the individuals. It wasn't just a money thing. And in the end, his attempts to make money failed, and that store collapsed and was no more. But he was an individual who was evil incarnate, one of those business partners. And so I can elaborate on that any way you'd like, but I do suspect that behind the scenes that human beings can become targeted if they emerge in the truth circuit, and if they can be co-opted on a soul level. There's ways, however you see it religiously, Shaitan, the devil, Satan, in which we can be tempted. In the Bible, he talks about Jesus in the wilderness or the temptation. And I feel like in the truth movement that's taken place through the algorithmic, like when the Google AdSense thing really exploded in 2014-15, right before Trump. And they made it really easy for what they call bad actors to come in and abuse the system so badly that now your average content creator can't monetize until they have 1,000 subscribers, which is almost impossible to get now. So they set it up to be abused, the big tech system, and now nobody can make a living on YouTube. So there's a lot of ways in which the alternative media rose in a matter of a few years and was driven, including the 9/11 truth movement, like into the ground. And I think that we should psychoanalyze it and make it a part of the historical record, how the truth movement rose and how it kind of shifted. And so that's the reason why I don't want to go to BitChute and Rumble and Odyssey and these other, because the energy doesn't feel right. I know I can get hits over there and clicks, but are those the viewers that I want? I think moving in the future, I don't want lots of viewers. I want quality viewers that are more of a friend camaraderie type consciousness than a follower,
Right. No. And look, I've done some of those platforms, but I have some. Here's the funny part, guys, and we're about at the end of time here, Aaron. So if you want to get ready for shout outs and wrap it up, we're ready. Okay. But really quickly, what you're essentially saying is the thing that I've been trying to communicate for a long time, and it seems to fall on a lot of deaf ears, quite frankly, is that we are at a point here where indeed these concerns of the physical realm are active weapons. They are weapons, but they're being weaponized on multiple levels, not just those with worldly concerns, but I think they've been weaponized as yet another part of the arsenal in the spiritual conflict that we're faced with. And it is it's happened again. It will happen again. It has happened. You know what I mean? All things that it just continues to cycle through. And I think we're at that point, though, where we got to recognize that it's not just the simplistic and the easy to track. Sure, it's profitable and there are profiteers, but some of them, maybe even the majority of them, are motivated by things that are completely misunderstood and not even recognized by most conventional individuals, organizations, etc. I think that's where you're coming down on this, right?
Agreed. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I can elaborate on that even further. But yeah, there people who do things right now for no reason whatsoever, not for money, not for hits, just to be malicious. There's literally some sort of a dopamine hit that entities may be giving some humans. There literally is like a pleasure center. It's activated by certain types of cruelty that's exhibited, in my opinion.
Yes.
Okay. Well, with that, I think we should bring this to a close. So yes, we usually do shout outs here at the end of the show. So Alex, you are our guest.
Yes.
Is there anybody that you'd like to send a shout out to tonight? Say hello to just any shout outs for tonight.
Well, hello to all the people out there with souls. I don't know. No one specific. Yeah. I'm just trying to communicate to the good people out there and not be distracted by the evil, because evil rises sometimes to distract us from the good things in this world and the good people. So this time around, I want to be more focused on some of the positive aspects of alternative media. And there's no one specific that I have to shout out. It's kind of lonely out there in the truth movement these days, but it was fun meeting you guys and have a lot in common with some of the things that you guys brought up. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it was great to have you, Alex.
Yeah.
Uncle, dude.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I like a guest like you had gotten, and I let him handle the show because most of it because to know what he's like. Mm-hmm. That's why I do it.
It's a learning experience.
Learning for me and everything.
Yeah, he had a lot to say, Uncle, and he could actually a lot more to say. So if he's wanting to come back, that would be great. And certainly we talked about he could come on the New Year's Revolution too. Yeah. Whatever, man. I say open door, and if you ever want to come on my show, also, I'm here, still doing my thing, 10 years deep plus, but not quite.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll think about that. I appreciate that.
So anyway, Aaron, we still got Jimmy on the line too. If you want to let a shout out.
Well, we better let Jimmy have a shout out. What do you think?
Get Jimmy on. Let Jimmy on.
Who you got, Jimmy?
What do you got? Sorry.
Well, first off, thanks to Alex for being a guest and speaking to us. Appreciate it. Thanks to Uncle and Sidekick. Thanks to the producer, Chuck. Appreciate it. And I absolutely agree, Alex. That's interesting. Just recently, I was trying to persuade someone that there is sinister forces. About the best I could do is to get him to admit that there's at least natural forces. He did acknowledge that, as in weather and whatnot. But he didn't quite. He just said, I don't believe in God. You kind of know what I'm talking about, Chuck. You know the conversation I'm talking about.
Yeah, of course. I get it. I get it. But it's one of those things. Look, you got to convince them that water's wet sometimes, man. It just is what it is. And you don't see it, you don't see it. What can I do for you except pray that you improve, right? I mean, what am I going to do?
I
but
do know one thing.
What's that, Uncle?
I know who the devil is.
Oh, there we go.
I know that.
All right.
I know who it is.
Are you going to shout out to the devil, Uncle? Or shout at the devil, rather?
Shout at the devil.
Shout at the devil?
Trump.
Oh, that guy. Oh, okay.
He's the devil.
Oh, okay. All right, well, there we go. Well, UncleThePodcast.com, at Uncle Podcast, Instagram and Twitter. Alex Ansary was our guest, Outside the Box TV. Uncle, why don't you bring us home for this week?
There's our show, 300 and whatever. Never mind. Those track numbers, I don't know.
Something. It's a number.
It's something. Here. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.